Good morning, one and all. So today we will start with our lecture. Good morning. Still very less number of participants are there. No matter, we will start. Let me share my screen now. Okay. Okay. So in our last lecture, we have started with our fourth unit, that is overview of cloud security. So the introductory part of that chapter, that is whatever the bits or the syllabus that we are covering in that unit that we have seen. Then about the title of the chapter, central idea, importance, and whatever the chapter outcome for that chapter is there. So that part we have seen, and then we have covered the first bit of that unit, that is the security concerns in traditional IT. Okay, so the security concerns like physical security. So what is physical security? What is logical security? Behavioral security, then special security considerations for e-commerce and privacy considerations for e-commerce. So that part we have covered in our last lecture. So physical security, that means securing your cloud data or whatever the servers that you are using, that physically. So logically, so that means so saving your passwords and all this, that kind of a things we have seen. Then behavioral security. Behavioral is like to whom you can trust, or what type of to whom you can assign as a main person for securing the data on your server. So that type of security and related data we have seen. Then some special security consideration from the e-commerce point of view, and the other privacy considerations for e-commerce, that part we have covered in our last lecture. So now today we are going to see, okay, for and one more bit we have covered, that is the security concerns in traditional IT. So network security and cloud security. So what is the difference between network and cloud security? That part we have covered, that is the difference between the two. So in case of a network security, you are going to focus solely on protecting your network. Okay, so any kind of a physical hamper is there, any kind of unauthorized users access if it is there, then like physically and logically, whatever the security concerns are there in case of a network security, that is physically. So that part we are about to concern in that. But in case of a cloud, it provides an overall protection for networks, servers, containers, apps, and more. So how it is going to protect your network, then your servers, the containers, the apps that are provided by your cloud, and many more. So that is the concern in case of a cloud security. So the difference of that part we have covered in last lecture. So today we are going to see the challenges in cloud computing in terms of application security. So that means from the application point of view, what are the different security concerns? So that is need to be checked. So in that, the first is the data breaches. Okay, so in that particular the challenges. So if we go around, or if we check towards the companies, their scenarios, the all the major promises of the cloud are improved IT efficiency, flexibility, and scalability. So it comes with everything, will come with one major challenge, that is nothing but the security. So many organizations can't delineate where service providers, that is your CSP, cloud service providers, it is their responsibilities, and their own responsibilities begin, opening them to numerous vulnerabilities. So the increased expensiveness of the data of the cloud also increases an organizational potential attack uh, attack surface. To further complicate the matter, the traditional security controls often don't fulfill the cloud security needs. So to help the companies to understand the cloud challenges, there are up against the Cloud Security Alliance went directly to the professionals. A working group of practitioners, architects, developers, and C-level staff identified a list of some security threats which were then analyzed by the security professionals, who ranked them and narrowed them down further to 11 some of the security challenges. So in that, the first is the data breaches. A responsibility of both the CSP, that is the cloud service providers, and their customers. Data breaches remained the top cloud security threat, yet again this year in CSA's reports. So the number of data breaches have been attributed to the cloud over the past years. So one of the most notable being Capital One's cloud misconfigurations. So the data breach can bring a company to its knees, causing irreversible damage to its reputation, financial woes due to regulatory implications, legal liabilities, incident responses costs, and decreased market value. So the cloud service provider recommended the things like defining the data value and the impact of its loss, then protecting data via encryption, and having a strong, well-tested incident response plan. The cloud service will control the metrics specified like performing the data input and output integrity routines, applying the principles of least privilege to access control, and establishing the policies and procedures for secure data removal and disposal. Then second is the misconfiguration and inadequate change control. So when the assets are set up incorrectly, they are vulnerable to attack. For example, the Capital One breach was tracked back to the web application firewall misconfiguration that exposed some Amazon S3 buckets. So in addition to that, to the insecure storage, excessive permissions and the use of default credentials are two other major sources of vulnerabilities. So related to this, ineffective change control. can cause cloud misconfigurations. So in on-demand, real-time cloud environments, change control should be automated to support the rapid change. A responsibility of the customer, misconfiguration and change control are new to the cloud security threats lists. So the CSA recommended the following, that is paying the special attention to the data accessible via the internet, then defining the business value of data and the impact of its loss, and creating and maintaining the strong incident response plan. Next is lack of cloud security architecture and the strategy. So too many organizations jump into the cloud without the proper architecture and strategy in place. So prior to making the leap to the cloud, customers must understand the threats they are exposed to, how to mitigate to the cloud security. So this threat is new to the list and is a responsibility of the customer without proper planning. Customer will be vulnerable to the cyber attacks that can result in financial losses, reputational damage, and legal and compliance issues. So this cloud server architecture will recommend the things like ensuring that security architecture aligns with business goals and objectives, then developing and implementing a security architecture framework, and implementing continuous security uh, monitoring procedures. So the CCM specifications may include ensuring the risk assessment policies, which include updating policies, procedures, standards, and controls to remain relevant. Then designing, developing and deploying business critical customer impacting applications and APIs, API design and configuration, and network and system components in accordance with agreed upon service level and capacity level expectations, IT governance and service management policies and the procedures, and restricting and monitoring traffic between trusted and untrusted connections in the network environment and virtual instances. Fourth one is the insufficient identity credentials, access and key management. So a majority of cloud security threats and the cyber security threats in general can be linked to identity and access management, that is the IAM, identity and access management. That services we have already covered in our second and third unit. So according to CSA guidance, this stems from the following, like improper credential protection, then lack of automated cryptographic key, password and certificate rotation. Yes, any doubt? Please mute your mic. Okay, lack of automated cryptographic key, password, and certificate rotation. Then IAM scalability challenges. Then absence of multi-factor authentication and the weak passwords. Okay, so all these are from the point of view of insufficient identity, credentials, access, and key management. So from that point of view, whatever the security measures are there, that will come over here. So new to the top cloud security challenges list, standard IAM challenges are exacerbated by cloud use. So conducting inventory, tracking, monitoring, and managing the sheer number of cloud accounts needed is compounded by provisioning and deprovisioning issues. So the zombie accounts, excessive admin accounts, and users bypassing IAM controls, as well as the challenges with defining the roles and the privileges. Okay, so as a customer responsibilities, CSA will recommend like using two-factor authentication, just like nowadays the Gmail is providing to us two-step verification. So first of all, your password will be the first verification, and maybe at the second time OTP will be sent to the registered mobile number that you have to put over there, or the code, G Suite code that you are going to provide over there. So that way, two-way security might be provided. With this, if you are having the accounts with State Bank of India, okay, so in SBI's e-banking, you can see you first have to enter your password, and then you have to enter the OTP, one time password, isn't it? So that will be valid for say 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or whatever the case is, isn't it? So according to that, two-step verification will be provided. So why it is needed? Because to check whether the person is authorized one or not. Then practicing strict IAM controls for the cloud users and identities. Then rotating keys, removing unused credential and access privileges, and employing central programmatic key management. So the CCM specifications may include identifying the key managers and creating and maintaining the key management policies, then assigning, documenting, and communicating the roles, responsibilities for performing the employment, termination, or the procedural changes, if any. And performing timely deprovisioning, that is whether the revocation or the modification of user access to the data and the network components if it is there. Then the fifth one is account hijacking. So cloud account hijacking is the disclosure, accidental leakage, exposure, or other compromise of a cloud account that is critical to the operation, administration, or maintenance of the cloud environment. So these highly privileged and sensitive accounts, if breached, can cause massive consequences. So from phishing and credential stuffing to the weak or stolen credentials. To improper coding account, it will compromise, the account compromise can lead to data breaches and service disruptions. So here in this case, the responsibilities of CSPs and the customers, the CSA will recommend like remembering that account hijacking is not just a password reset, and using defense in depth and IAM controls. So the CCM specifications may include establishing, documenting, and adopting a unified business continuity plan, and separating the production and non-production environments, and maintaining and regularly updating the compliance license in preparations for a forensic investigation requiring rapid engagement with law enforcement. Okay, then insider threats. So the risks associated with the employees and the and others working within the organization's network are not limited to the cloud only. Whether negligent or intentional insiders, including the current and former employees, contractors, and partners, can cause data loss, system downtime, reduce the customer confidence, and data breaches. So these are the insider threats. So in many of the serials, in many of the movies, we might have seen these kind of things, like those who were your former or the previous employees. Then your contractors, partners, the contractors, like those who are not getting any kind of a contract, proper service with your company, which are having or who are having some kind of a negative impact of your company, they may cause harm to your data, isn't it? They may try to look into your data. Okay, so the responsibility of the customer insider threat involving leaked or stolen data, credential issues, human errors, and cloud misconfigurations must be addressed here. So the CSA will recommend conducting security awareness training, fixing the misconfigured cloud servers, and restricting the access to the critical system. So you might be seeing in case of a Gmail, in case of a banking accounts also, after some days, maybe after 1 month, maybe after 15 days or so, the new password recommendation will be provided to you. Why is that so? If your account is getting hacked, you may lose your money, you may lose your data. So that is why this is the recommendation from the service providers itself. So that kind of a security awareness training should be given to your customers. Then fixing misconfigured cloud servers. So suppose some of the servers are not properly configured. So fix whatever the errors that are there with those particular cloud servers, and restricting the access to the critical system. So suppose if your system is having confidential data at a particular location or on a particular system, so restrict the access to that system. That means, suppose for example, if one of the system is working as a server, so what type of extra security you are providing to your server, isn't it? So what type of authentication you are providing? If it is physically, then what type of a physical measures, like your fingerprint scanning, eye retina scanning, if you are using like that? Then maybe the password protection. So just now we have seen the example, two-way protection or so. So that type of a method should be included or provided in that critical system security. Then CCM specifications include requiring authorization prior to relocating or transforming the hardware, software, or data. So many at times on the server. So suppose on your system also, if you have if administrator is one user and you have created one more user, that is like student account or so. So if you try to install any software with student's credential, then you have seen the thing like it is asking for the administrator's password. So whoever is the first user for the system, that will be responsible for changing any kind of a configuration with your system, isn't it? So that's why it will be asking for the password. So if you are a student but still you are having the access to the administrative password, then proper authentication or authorization should be given from your side. Then authorizing and revalidating user access controls at planned intervals and segmenting multi-tenant apps, infrastructure and networks from other tenants. Then insecure interfaces and the APIs. So CSP UIs and APIs through which the customers interact with cloud services are some of the most exposed components of a cloud environments. So the security of any cloud service starts with how well these are safeguarded and is the responsibility of both the customers and CSPs. So the CSP, cloud service provider, must ensure the security is integrated and the customers must be diligent in managing, monitoring, and securely using what the CSA calls the front door of the cloud. This threat dropped from the third most important in the last report, but it is still important to address. So CSA here will recommend practicing the good API hygiene, avoiding API key reuse, and using the standard Open API framework. So avoiding API key reuse, that means whatever the key you are using, it should not be repeated one. Okay. So the CCM specifications include designing, developing and deploying and testing the APIs in accordance with the industry leading standards, as well as adhering to applicable legal, statutory, regulatory obligations, segregating and restricting access to audit tools that interact with the organization's information system to prevent the data disclosure and tampering, and restricting the utility programs capable of overriding the system, objects, network, VM, and application controls. Next is the weak control plane. That is what? So the responsibility of the customer and new to the list is the collection of cloud administrative consoles and interfaces used by the organization. It also includes data duplication, migration, and storage according to the CSS. So improperly secured, a breached control plane could cause data losses. So the regulatory fines and other consequences, as well as a tarnished brand reputation that cloud lead to the revenue loss. So the CSA recommendations are like requiring adequate controls from the CSPs and performing due diligence to determine if potential cloud services have adequate control planes. Then CCM specifications include the following: establishing and making the InfoSec policies and procedures readily available to for the review by internal personnel and external business relationships. Then implementing and applying defense in depth measures to detect and respond to the network based attacks in a timely manner, and establishing policies to label, handle, and secure the data and objects that contain the data. Next is metastructure and appli structure failures. So the metastructures that is defined by the CSS cloud service application is the protocol and mechanism that provides the interface between the infrastructure layer and the other layers. In other words, we can say the glue that ties the technologies and enables the management and configuration. So also known as the waterline. The metastructure is the line of demarcation between the CSPs and the customers. So many security threats exist here. For example, the CSS cited poor API implementation by the CSPs or improper cloud app used by the customer. So such security challenges could lead to service disruption, misconfiguration with financial and data loss consequences. The appli structure is defined as the applications deployed in the cloud and the underlying application services used to build them. For example, PaaS, performance as a service, features like message queues, AI analysis, or notification services. So the new threat, this report, it is customer and CSP responsibility. So the CSA recommendations are like CSPs offering visibility and exposing mitigations to counteract their tenants' lack of transparency. CSPs conducting the penetration testing and providing findings to the customer, and customers implementing the features and controls in the cloud native designs. So the CCM specifications include developing and maintaining the audit plans to address the business process disruptions, implementing encryption to protect the data in the storage, in use, and in transmit. So whatever the data is getting transferred, so that data will also be considered, and establishing the policies and the procedures to store and manage the identity information. Next, that is the 10th one is limited cloud usage visibility. Let me drink some water. Just a minute. Okay, so next is limited cloud usage visibility. So cloud visibility has long been a concern of enterprise admins, but it is new to the cloud service applications. Cloud security challenges list this report. So limited visibility results in two main challenges. So according to CSA, unsanctioned app use, which is also known as a shadow IT, it is when employees use the application not permitted by IT. Okay, so some of the websites, some of the apps which are not provided access from your organization, but still if you are using, so that will be called as a unsanctioned app use. Then sanctioned app misuse is when the apps are approved by the IT, which are not used as intended. So this include users authorized to use the app, as well as unauthorized individuals accessing it with stolen credentials obtained via SQL injection or DNS attack, for example. So you are having your own credentials, but if you are using the credentials of those maybe which have or who have left the organizations, and with that you are misusing the apps which are provided by your organization, so that will also be considered as a security measures. So the limited visibility, CSA said, leads to a lack of governance, awareness, and security, all of which can result in the cyber attacks, data loss, or the breaches. So new to this particular list is the responsibility of the CSPs and customers. CSA recommended the following: developing a cloud visibility effort from the top down, then mandating and enforcing company-wide training on acceptable cloud usage policies, and not uh, requiring all non-approved cloud services be reviewed and approved by the cloud security architect or third-party risk management. The CCM specifications may include conducting the risk assessment at regular intervals, making all the personnel aware of their compliance and security roles and the responsibilities, and conducting inventories, documenting and maintaining the data flows. And the last one is abuse and nefarious use of cloud services. So just as the cloud can be used for good, it can also be used maliciously by the threat actors. So the nefarious use of legitimate software as a service, that is SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS offerings, affects the individuals, cloud customers, and CSPs alike. Hey. So disguised as coming from CSP, customers are especially vulnerable to the misuse of the cloud services with the following. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. My baby is crying. Just 1 minute only. Okay, and the last bit, that is the last point of this, and that is nothing but the abuse and nefarious use of the cloud services, isn't it? So in that, just as the cloud can be used for the good, it can also be used maliciously by the threat actors. So nefarious use of legitimate SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS offerings affects the individuals, then the cloud customers and the CSPs alike. So the distinguished as coming from the CSPs, customers are especially vulnerable to the misuse of cloud services via the following, that is the distributed denial of the service attacks, then phishing, then crypto mining, click frauds, brute force attacks, hosted malicious or pirated contents. So the compromised and abused cloud service can lead to incurred expenses, for example, loss in cryptocurrency or the payments made by the attackers, the customers unknowingly hosting the malware, data loss, and many more. So the CSAs recommends the CSPs be diligent in detecting and mitigating such attacks with an incident response framework. CSPs should also offer tools and controls their customers can use to monitor cloud workloads and the applications. So the customer and the CSP's responsibility. CSA recommends the following: monitoring the employees' cloud use and using the cloud data loss prevention technologies. So the CCM specifications include the following, that is adopting technical measures to manage the mobile device risks, then defining the allowances and usage permissions for the enterprise and user-owned endpoints, including the workstations, laptops, and mobile devices, and creating and maintaining the list of approved applications and application stores. Okay. So these are the security concerns. From the application point of view, security. Next is server security. So for that, I will share my screen.
So you've just installed the latest security patches and So you've just installed the latest security patches and made sure the entire organization uses two-factor authentication. Now your business is fully secure, isn't it? Of course it's not. All the security fixes and products in the world will never 100% protect your cloud or business from security threats. The key to security is realizing that you're never done. You can never solve the problem completely, and it's never going away. With the growing sophistication of cyber threats, no matter how strong your defenses are, it's likely you will experience a breach, and you may never even know it. So, what does an ongoing, holistic security approach look like? If you're a developer, adopt a security-focused software development lifecycle so you're continually improving security as you build, test, and deploy applications. IT operations should integrate defense in-depth strategies, tools like automation and predictive analytics to detect and remediate vulnerabilities. And leadership needs to build a strategy around risk management, regulatory compliance, and business continuity while championing a culture of security ownership across the organization. Recognizing that security touches everything means everyone has to take an active part to minimize risk. Address security as a discipline that is only mastered when people, processes, and technologies work together in a continuous, holistic approach. Red Hat's security approach begins with making open source enterprise-ready, hardened, and supported. It's an approach that reflects years of experience helping customers build more securely and listening to community and customer feedback to advocate for better security standards. With this hardened foundation, Red Hat can help organizations focus on building, managing, and securing hybrid environments, implementing a consistent automation strategy to improve security and compliance, and developing robust applications with security baked in using DevSecOps practices. The security process may never be done, but we're each more secure when everyone takes responsibility.
Based on Kubernetes 1.11, which is now 13 full versions old. If you
समझा.
Cyber threats are everywhere, and they are constantly changing. The challenge for chief security officers, IT, and security teams is enabling security at the speed. Cyber threats are everywhere, and they are constantly changing. The challenge for chief security officers, IT, and security teams is enabling security at the speed of digital transformation. These teams must also ensure that security and trust span every digital process, customer experience, and service across every layer of the technology. Sound impossible? Not when you work with the security experts at HPE. We start by building Zero Trust security into everything, from silicon to data and apps, across people, processes, and technology, and from the edge to the cloud. We call this security and resiliency by design, and all of our reference architectures adhere to that critical philosophy. Zero Trust security assumes a breach will occur, so businesses should prepare by following best practices such as DevSecOps and others. Doing so integrates security earlier in new initiatives and aligns them with industry standards such as the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. HPE Pointnext services offer greater protection of customer data, earlier detection of threats, and the ability to recover faster from a disaster, breach, or data loss for business continuity. Trust HPE experts and HPE GreenLake Cloud Services to help accelerate security in your hybrid cloud and at the edge. Train your teams, and manage security across your technology platforms. To learn more, visit hpe.com/services/security.
Silence! Please wait for your turn.
हेलो, क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग की वीडियो लेक्चर सीरीज़ में आज हम देखेंगे क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग के चैलेंजेस के बारे में।
So I think I will stop over here for this lecture as my baby girl is not in the mood. So I will do one thing. You can put your attendance in the chat, and I will put one assignment for you for remaining 1 hour. Okay, some 2-3 questions assignment for you. Okay, so that's all for now for today's lecture. This particular bit will be continued in our next lecture. Okay, thank you, and sorry. Oi, 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 oi.